Hello, wonderful students. We are in Chapter 8, Lesson 6, 8.6, on page number 583. If you see, I get a kick out of math, this soccer player, you know you're on the right page. And today we are comparing fractions. So I don't love the way the book explains this completely, so just make sure you're listening to me and following along at the same time. The least common denominator is the least common multiple of the denominators of fractions. So remember, least common multiple we did yesterday, and the least common denominator is the exact same thing, but it's comparing the denominator of a fraction. So let's take a look at this. Trevor made 2 out of 3 goals. He made 2 out of 3 goals. Tyler made 5 out of 6 goals. Who made a greater fraction of goals? Well, you can't compare these. You can't do anything to compare or do anything with these unless they have the same denominator, because we can't tell. So if we drew it out 2/3, it's like a peace sign. Here's Trevor's. He made 2/3. And if we do 5/6, Tyler did 5 out of 6. So we can kind of guess that this little piece of pie crust is a little bit smaller, that he made more goals, but it's really hard to tell. And so what we have to do is we have to get these denominators to be the same. So the first thing we do is we find the least common multiple, or the least common denominator, of 2/3 and 5/6. So we're just looking at changing the denominators right now. So the denominators are 3 and 6. So we do least common multiple like we've been doing, 3, 6, 9, 12. And then we do 6. 6, 12. Oh look, I don't even have to go further. 6 is my least common multiple, my least common denominator. So the least common multiple, or the least common denominator, is 6. So now we're going to make equivalent fractions. And so we're going to have that with the denominator of 6. So this is so hard for me to see here because it's already written. But we've got our 2/3, and we're going to change the denominator to 6. So 3 times 2 equals 6. So we have to do the same thing to the top that we do to the bottom. 2 times 2 is 4. This one is already a 6th, so we don't really have to change it. They multiplied it by 1, but you don't have to. 6 times 1 is 6, 5 times 1 is 5. So now we have here 4/6 and 5/6. The denominators are the same, so we just say, oh, 5 is greater than 4, so this one is greater. So, who made a greater fraction of goals? Tyler. And here's how we can check. We can check. This is Trevor made 2/3, and here's 1/6. See how they actually did a really good job of spacing them out and making sure that they had divided their stuff evenly. And you can see that Tyler made more goals if you do a really good job of making sure those are even. But sometimes that's a little bit tricky to do. Okay, we're going to do more of these, so let's turn the page. Okay, it says compare 3/5 and 1/2 using the least common denominator. So it wants to know which one's bigger, 3/5 or 1/2. We can't tell because the denominators aren't the same. So we're going to find the least common denominator, or the least common multiple. 5, 10, we're skip counting, we're doing multiples. 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, that's probably plenty. Let's see if it is. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Oop, 10. There we go. So the least common multiple, or least common denominator of 2 and 5 is going to be 10. So we're going to change, I'm going to have you guys write this out. So just cross that off. I know that it's already written there for you, but I prefer you to write this out. So we're going to take the fraction 3/5 we're going to take the fraction 3/5, and we're going to change that denominator to 10. So what do I have to multiply 5 by? 5 times what gives you 10? 5 times 2, that's right. So we would get a 2 on the bottom and a 2 on the top, because remember, we're only really multiplying it by 1 here, a big whole number. So we're not changing the value because we're doing the same to the bottom and this top. So 5 times 2 is 10, 3 times 2 is 6. So this one is 6/10. And let's change this 1/2 into tenths. 1/2 times something equals, and my denominator is going to be 10. 2 times what gives you 10? 2 times 5. Same on the top, same on the bottom. 1 times 5 is 5. So that's 5/10. So now we can see that 6 is greater than 5. The bottoms are the same, so I can compare. 6/10 is greater than 5/10. So we go back to our original numbers, 3/5 is greater than 1/2. And we can check with these models. This is 3/5, 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 is 3/5, and this is 1/2. And you can see that it is a little bit greater, but it's also tenths. So if we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, if we use these divisions, you'll see that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenths. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tenths. So all we're doing is dividing it up in a different way. We're making equivalent fractions. Okay, let's do the value practice together. Okay, we're comparing 1/5 and 1/3 using the least common denominator or the least common multiple. So we're looking at the denominators. We want to change them so that they're speaking the same language, so that they're the same. So we're going to write out our skip counts, our multiples of 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Let's see if that's far enough. Those are our multiples of 5. And then we're going to write out our multiples of 3 until we get to one that we can stop at. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Okay, so circle those 15s. That's your least common denominator or least common multiple. So your original fraction here is 1/5, and we need to change the denominator to 15. So fill in that new denominator of 15. And they've already done some of the work here, and I hate it when they do this, but they're telling you it's 5 times 3 gives you 15. So on the top, now you have to multiply the same thing on the bottom, same thing on the top. So 1 times 3 is 3. So 1/5 is an equivalent fraction to 3/15. Now let's change 1/3 into a 15th. So write your denominator on the new fraction. And it's already doing the work for you. 3 times what gives you 15? 3 times 5. So same thing on the bottom, same thing on the top. So 1 times 5 is 5. So now, the denominators are the same. They're both out of 15th. So which is bigger, 3 out of 15 or 5 out of 15? Well, 5 is bigger than 3, so it's definitely that one. So remember, that was your original 1/3. So 1/3 is bigger than 1/5 because the 1/3 is the one that's 5/15. 1/3 is the one that was 5/15. And I like to go like this and rewrite them so that I don't get confused. This one was 3/15, and this one was 5/15, and then I go, oh yeah, it goes this way. So I like to rewrite them just to make sure I remember that those are equivalent fractions. Okay, let's do some practice. Let's do some practice together, you guys. 3/4 and 7/8. So we need to get the denominators the same. They need to be speaking the same language in order for us to compare. So this is a special circumstance where I think it's a little bit easier to just kind of, before you start listing out the multiples, which you can do, think about 4 and 8. Just think about those for a second. Are those numbers ever related? They are. They're in the skip counts of 4, right? If we go 4 is 4, 8. Okay, so let's just change the denominator of the first one to 8. So write your 3/4 and then leave yourself a space and put equals, leave a space here, and write your new denominator of 8. So 3/4 space equals something over 8. Now what we have to do is think about how do we get from 4 to 8? What do we multiply by? 4 times what gives you 8? 2. So same thing on the bottom, same thing on the top. So I have to multiply the top by 2. What's 3 times 2? 6. Now we can just, and I really don't care if you do this, you can cross this off and put 6/8 here. Which is bigger, 6/8 or 7/8? 7 is bigger than 6. My denominators are the same, so I just compare the numerator. So 7/8 is bigger. You put that alligator eating the bigger number, 7/8 is bigger. And remember, if you drew this out using a model to check your work, and it's hard because you got to be precise, which means exact, but we could see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6/8 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7/8. You can see that the 7/8 person got more of the pie. They got more of that pie. Okay, let's do number 3. We have 2/3 and 7/10. It wants to know which one is bigger. That's too hard to compare. We've got to get the denominators to be the same. So let's see. I like to start with the larger number. It's up to you. This is just a little trick I do. But if we start with 10 and we write multiples, 10, can 3 go into 10? No. I just like to kind of check it in my brain. 20, can 3 go into 20 evenly? No. 30, can 3 go into 30 evenly? Ooh, yes. So that's going to be my least common denominator. So we're going to change the denominators of these to 30. Now, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write my circle over, and I'm going to put something over 30 and something over 30, so I can see what those numbers are. Now we've got to do the work of making an equivalent fraction. So write your 2/3, give yourself a space, and put equals something over 30. So you should have this drawn before we move on to the next step. 2/3 space equals something over 30. 2/3 space equals something over 30. Now we have to think, how do we get from 3 to 30? Are we multiplying or dividing? We're multiplying. 3 times what gives you 30? 3 times what? 3 times 10. Same thing on the bottom, same thing on the top. So I multiply the top times 10. 2 times 10 is 20. So go ahead and write that up in your comparison, that 2/3 is 20 30ths. 2/3 is 20 30ths. Okay, now we've got to do our 7/10. We've got to switcheroo this guy too. So we're going to write 7/10 space, leave yourself a space, equals something over 30. 7/10 space equals something over 30. And I'm going to skip number 4, so don't worry about running into that space there. You can write in the space by number 4. 7/10 equals, or space, equals something over 30. This also needs to be written on your paper. Okay, so now think, from 10 to 30, are we multiplying or dividing? We're multiplying. So 10 times what equals 30? 10 times 3. So same thing on the bottom, same thing on the top. I always have to do the same because remember, we're really just multiplying this. This is our big giant 1. We're multiplying it by 1, 3/3. So 7 times 3 is 21. Now you can go back to your 7/10 and put that that's 21 30ths. So my denominators are the same, so I just look at the numerators. Which is bigger, 21 or 20? 21. So the 21 is being eaten by the alligator. So 2/3 is less than 7/10. Okay, let's do number 5. Ooh, this is another one that is actually a little bit easier, you guys. This is fun because think of those numbers 3 and 9. Now I can't compare. Yeah, I can't go 5 is bigger than 1. Okay, that the alligator's going to eat it. The bottom numbers have to be the same for me to compare them. So, but let's skip count by 3s. 3, 6, 9. Oh, 9. That's our number. So, oh, hold on, My thing froze, you guys. Okay, it's going. Sorry, I got frozen there for a second. So we were skip counting by threes. 3, 6, 9, 9, 9, 9 is going to be my number. So this little doodad here, this 1/3, I'm going to change that to a ninth. This one is already a ninth. 5 ninths is already a ninth. I don't have to do anything to it. It's a freebie. Hooray! So we're going to change 1/3 into a ninth. So write 1/3 space equals something over 9. So write that on your paper. You should have just like mine. 1/3, give yourself some space, equals something over 9. Think about 3 to 9. Are we going to multiply or divide? We're going to multiply times what? 3 times what gives you 9? 3 times 3. Do the same thing to the top that you do to the bottom. 1 times 3 is 3. So that 1/3 is 3 ninths. Now my denominators are the same. I can compare the top. Which is bigger, 5 or 3? 5. So that 5 ninths did get the alligator, but we didn't know until we compared them. Okay, let's do number 6. We're not going to do 7. You can cross it off if you want to use that space. Okay, 1/4 and 1/6. So I'm going to do the same thing. I like to start with my bigger number and think about least common denominator. I like to skip count by the bigger number. So 6, 12. Can 4 go into 12? Ooh, sweet. So we're going to change both of these denominators to 12. So I'm going to write them down here below my circle and rewrite my circle just so I can remember which one I'm comparing. Okay. Now, we have to change both of them this time. Neither one of them have a 12th in their denominator, so we have to change both. That's why we're going to need a little more room. So we're going to do 1/4 space equals what over 12? 1/4 space equals what over 12? So think about going from 4 to 12. Are we multiplying or dividing? We're multiplying. 4 times what gives you 12? 3. 4 times 3. Same thing to the bottom that we do to the top. 1 times 3 is 3. So 1/4, you can go back up here, 1/4 is the same as 3/12. And you guys know that. If we were simplifying 3/12, we'd do the same thing. We'd think of what can we divide out of both the top and the bottom, and we'd go, oh, I can divide out of 3. And we go 3 divided by 3 is 1, 12 divided by 3 is 4. It goes both ways, simplifying and making equivalent fractions. So we're just making them bigger so we can, changing the denominator so we can compare them. Okay, 1/6. So write yourself 1/6 space equals something over 12. 1/6 space equals something over 12. And in case you're lost on my page, because there's a lot, we're in the box right now. So we're thinking, how do we get from 6 to 12? Well, we have to multiply times what? 6 times 2. Do the same thing to the top that we did to the bottom. 1 times 2 is 2. So we can go back. Which one's bigger, 1/4 or 1/6? Well, 3 is bigger than 2. I can just look at them because the denominators are the same. So we can go back to the original one and say 1/4 is greater than 1/6. Okay, we're going to do 1 or 2 more. Okay, number 8, 2/3 and 3/4. So I'm going to start with my 4, and I'm going to start skip counting and thinking, can I divide this by 3? So we've got 4, definitely can't divide that by 3. 8, can I divide that by 3? No. 12, can I divide that by 3? Ooh, yes we can. Okay, so that's going to be our least common denominator. We have to change both of them. So rewrite your 12th and your circle to compare them. We're going to have something over 12 and something over 12. So we can compare those fractions. We have to get the denominators the same to be able to compare them. Okay, now we're going to change 2/3. We're going to make an equivalent fraction. So you're going to write 2/3 space equals something over 12. 2/3 space equals something over 12. And I'm going to cross off number 9 so you can use that space as well. So 3 to 12. We're going to multiply times what? 3 times what equals 12? 3 times 4. Do the same thing to the top that you do to the bottom. 2 times 4 equals 8. So 2/3 and 8/12 are equivalent fractions. Now let's do 3/4. So I'm going to write 3/4, give myself a space, equals something over 12. 3/4 space equals something over 12. 4 times what equals 12? 4 times 3, do the same thing to the top that you do to the bottom, always. 3 times 3 is 9. So we've got 8/12 and 9/12. The denominators are the same, I can compare them. 9 is bigger than 8, so 9/12 is bigger than 8/12, so 3/4 is bigger than 2/3. Okay, last one, you guys, we're going to do number 10 because it's actually easy peasy. So 1/6 and 1/3. Think about these two numbers, 3 and 6. They're multiples, so I can go 3, 6 if I'm skip counting. So we get to keep 1/6. It's a freebie. We get to keep it. It just sits there. We don't have to do anything to it. We're just going to change this 1/3 into something over 6. So we can even use this space. It's already written 1/3. Leave a space and write something over 6. 1/3 space something over 6. 3 times what gives you 6? 3 times 2. Same thing to the top that we do to the bottom. 1 times 2 is 2. So now we have 1/6 and 2/6, which is bigger? 2/6. So the alligator eats that 1/3. That is where we're going to stop for today. Good job, you guys. Keep this up. We're going to be working on it for quite a little bit of time, so don't give up.